Okay, so we are beginning of the LWC class. What is LWC? It's a Lightning Web Components. I think it's a recent trends what Salesforce has been doing with. So having this LWC skill set is one of the important things to have for developers today. If someone says I'm a 5 year experience or at least 3 years, they should have heard the term called LWC. And when you're at least 5 years, they expect that you should have an hands-on on LWC components. So the expectations of any Salesforce company who is trying to hire, so they want some key or basic knowledge on the LWC components. Is getting
Okay.
yeah. So of course LWC components is we say the point number one is the lightweight. So we need to know what is the difference that why we wanted to migrate to this. So it's because of the lightweight people prefer these LWC components in terms of if you have some complex logic and then too much of UI stuff, um, like one component is trying to call another component, or in a single window we have multiple things to render. So to do this all of this activity, if you have existingly written in Aura and they are delayed by showing the results, then the lightweight components like LWC will help much better because in our component a bundle itself will have eight components inside it. For example, component JS, control JS, helper JS, and then you have style, design, documentation, SVG. So all this so many things were required. But in the LWC, sorry, yeah, in the LWC we have only three we have, where we say like how simple browser will understand. So the same thing would be getting it as so as simple as you need to have simple HTML file, and then you need to have JS file, and then you can have CSS file. So this is the maximum files that we require, which generally a browser is expectations is these three things. For UI, this thing for some calculations and doing some JavaScript task, they use JS, and then for designing or something like UI good UI, they use CSS. So that is the reason we say it is more lightweight. So anything that we want to do is all these controllers, JS controllers, they are handling it. So the JS controller they are handling it. So in terms of otherwise, okay, let's say this is what the if this is the VS Code and this is your project, if you just go to LWC and you should see a section called as LWC, and then you should click a right click on there, and then you should click on create lightning web component. So what does this is, it tries to create a component in your org. So this is the only way currently we have now to create a component in Visual Studio. So that would create a record, or that would create a component in our Salesforce R. So we don't have any other medium to create the lightning web component. So unless we have an option to go create in the developer console, so we don't have such options. The lightning web components can be created only with Visual Studio. So you got that?
Yeah. So I need to go where LWC.
Going to go to the folder structure where you have a LWC option, and you should click on that, and you should right click it, and then should click on to create new component.
Okay.
Okay, if suppose that you wanted to create something, so Control Shift P, and then you can create something like you can say that SFDX. I'm not going directly with the LWC folder, but I'm just going this way. LWC create lightning web component. I'm just clicking on here. So this asks me to create, but the next thing is it asks me which folder. So let's say test LWC. So let's start with smallest t and test LWC. And the next I ask is which folder do you want to choose? See, randomly I went, I didn't choose the LWC folder and right click there, and I'm choosing this particular folder. Get it? Control Shift P I did, and I went on to create, type the LWC say subdx colon create web component. So the moment I click that, it automatically asks me, do you want it to create in the under the LWC folder? It asks me. Then I said yes. So that is the one way. Or directly you're saying that right click onto the folder and then clicking from there only creating lightning web component.
Okay.
So look at this. So while the moment I just created the fold new component, so HTML and JS been created for us. CSS, of course, that you if you wish you can create it, unless in the HTML version only you can have the CSS. If you have separate external CSS that you wanted to load there, so you can have the copy of snippet that put into the CSS whatever that you want. So you can obviously go and create a new how do you say, go create new file that we have new file, and that file could be CSS file .css file. You can create it anyhow. That will be the particular component bundle. So even this is also called as bundle, but we have simple one. It's HTML, CSS, and this meta XML. Why we have is in order to deploy content one component from the VS Code to Salesforce or our developer. Or so how we deploy is via thread. All the way this Salesforce carries the meta file of type of development and deployments. So if we have this meta XML file, so easily we can deploy from one place to another place. Even our deployments which we try to carry from one place to another place is uses this what is it XML files only. So I think which initially when I told you guys, so what are things that would be covering the advanced courses. We are almost to the end stage where after the LWC few things we have to have. How do we upload our code to the repositories? So the next instant thing is after 2 days which we try to develop and deploy. So what will be our strategy is next. So you have your own free GitHub, right? So we will try to connect to a GitHub or whichever the Bitbucket, any source repositories which will have. We will try to push this try to push this all this MCD dev or code to our local repositories. So that way we'll understand how our source of codes are we trying to push it to Git. So here we have an option called initialize the repository or publish to GitHub. So we try to publish our code to a repository. So that way, how in real time the projects are working, you will get to know. So because everyone drives with the component-based deployment, or either they try to use a Bitbucket or try to use a Git. So something like this they use it, or they try to use Azure. So in whatever the way they wanted to have, it's okay. But we have to be very clear on okay, this is the component that I want to push. So in terms of Git or any other repository type of concepts, okay, these are the ABC steps you have to follow, and so that you can push our components bundles to that respective repositories. So you got my point?
Okay. Yeah.
And post that, so how generally deployment takes place from one or to another arc, we have a change set option. Otherwise, if an LWC component is there, how do you push this LWC component from one place to another place? So this also we'll see. But for that, we need to have a paid version of what sandboxes. So I would show you sample how things would work, but I cannot make some recording of that because something out of realistic things. It's a paid version. It is like it's a little confidential, so we can't make it out. But we can show how it works. If you understand that, then the deployment part also you would be good enough. So how to put into a repository, how to deploy. So that two things we'll see. And lastly, we have to see about the other trends and technology like CPQs and other stuff we have. So we'll spend no, roughly 3 days onto the LWC and see all this stuff. So then the 2 days we will keep on for the Git and LWC other stuff where we try to push deploy, and then 1 day for the trends. So that is the motive we have. So just this is how we try to create a component that I want to show you. So now few things we'll try to discuss. Okay, now if you wanted to just deploy this component, I didn't write anything here. If I say Hello world. So Control S. So one important things we have in LWC. Do you remember in every lightning Aura component whenever we tried to do, so it was asking me, hey, you wanted an app page, record page, or home page? Do you remember that? Any component that you wanted to have, where you wanted to we display this component. Do you remember that? So we just go to still this loading. If you go to developer console and then go click create new component. So they were asking me a couple of questions, right? In lightning template you want, so lightning page you want, uh, so we saw this. Lightning tab, lightning page, lightning record page, lightning quick action. So these are the places where you want to display this component, right? When we try to deal with the or try to create new aura component. So what you getting that?
Yeah.
So the same way now, if we are trying to create a lightning component here, but we don't have an option to show that, saying, hey, where I want to display this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that we have an option that we have to say that which type it is and where you want to display. We have to mention it here. So you need to go to our XML file, and in the XML file we have to say where we are trying to deploy that. So I can show you, but why this is loading a lot. Hey, come on.
Hi, Raj.
Yeah. So I was just explaining about a few basic things. So if you have configured your LWC, sorry, your VS Code, so how do you create a component? And so the post you create an LWC component, how do you try to deploy? So those things we're trying to discuss about. So for example, LWC is a folder where you try to create a lightning component. So either you can create it by this way, or you can do a Control Shift P, and then from there also you can type LWC component, and then next you can choose LWC as a folder. Give a component name ABC here, and then choose which particular folder this particular component has to reside. You can choose LWC here. So that way we try to create a simple LWC component called as test LWC, and that has a simple bundle which has HTML and JS file. It also includes .css file. That is something that we have to create it. So simple, they have a HTML and JS file, and always they have this XML file to in order to deploy things from one or to another org or to our own developer org which we have extracted here to the same org. If you want to deploy, these XML files help us because it says which version is API 51. They say is exposed means whether this particular component is been exposed, whether they say true or false. False means it will never show anywhere. We have to make this as true. So only then um, this shows in the components where you can drag and drop to your lightning page. If this is false, whatever the components you develop, whatever the crazy you do, but still it will not show in the lightning um, pages. So basically you try to edit the page, right? You see on the left hand side, all the components would be there. On the right hand side, drag and drop layout would be there. So if you not to drag and drop there or the component basically to visible, it will not be available there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is exposed should be true there. Only then this particular components can be visible in your into the lightning page. Okay, so few little architectural things and then basic theory things we have to cover. Why? Because we know how to write a component, how to create a component, and what the component does. But firstly, why LWC is required, you want to understand. Um, so just in terms of LWC who lifecycle. So a few important questions in terms of asking about this they ask it. Um, Sometime back they asked. So the moment when you just go to the LWC, what are the few? Actually, you need to have this developer guide, guys, because this is introducing to the LWC. All they have given, why it should be used and how it should be used. So to whom we are trying to follow this, all this stuff is very important. So do I just copy and then give it to you in the chat window, but still I'll paste in my notes, and this notes would be updated in your Google Drive. So this is for your quick reference. See, whatever we learn is could be a minimal thing, and if we try to sit down and to learn, so developer guide is a one which covers end to end. Maybe this training would help you out to understand the how to create a component, why LWC, how do we connect with one component and the component, how do we display, how do we pass the results. So this all, of course, it's good to understand because that's a very important thing to understand overall how it works. But again, so theoretically also we would require in terms of architecture how the system is designed and why the system, and prior to this what was the system has drawbacks, so why we have to land it here. So this, if you have additional inputs no, from your end, so then you can answer very boldly to any people on to the interview point of view. So for that reason I'm saying, the only way we have to have is just go through and then read through them. There's no shortcut we have. So a few things here. If you see our other stuff, they are not open source. If you see LWC, they are open source. That means they are asking you, I mean, how generally other JS frameworks they have it. So they give to you. So you can optimize the frameworks and then give, or you can contribute something to the this development team saying that if you do this extra things and this is no well it works. So that way, LWC is becoming an open source. People can you go download if you have npm, so you can download them, and then you can have the full source code set up there. So they already given you a Git repo, and then LWC dev says this is where the development actually happen. If you see here, npm generally will have all the what is it lightning component and all their resource bundles you have it here. So it's open source, right? How to know how to deal with open source, how to deal with the UI stuff, everything they have given pin by pin. But this they won't ask you to if you join a company, so they don't expect you to have all the knowledge of this. This is something that open source knowledge we have. Um, so why this has been put here is because there's an option of any people can join LWC. It's not about only you or me who have a Salesforce knowledge, only they can do it. If you are from Angular background or if you're from a different JavaScript framework background. So what this JavaScript community says that if you follow this ELS Slim 7, so this patterns if you follow, so anyone could join any programming stuff. Like if I know LWC, but I wanted to recently join to the Angular, the latest versions of whatever it is. So everyone will have the same type of trends. So they will not have any different types of files to create or to deploy. So ideally, the coding style, standard job level, everything would be the same. For example, import namespace component from namespace component. So the same structure, everyone has to follow that. So if you see a Java, everybody see import class name from whatever the libraries or bundles you have. I think if you remember your any Java framework or a Java type of development, you would see that really import some class name from the package library, and then you start write your own stuff and then you do it. So that's how the Java was. So everyone is trying to follow the same paradigm. So having the same snippet, if we have, it'll be easy across. So that is what they wanted to say here. So otherwise, if you see all here, um, how do you have written the open source and why the lightning component you have to have. So in terms of CLI, what they're trying to do, in terms of progressive web apps, what they want to do. So we have playgrounds to play with, right? Hello world. So this is all you could see here. Same import lightning web component because this is LWC that which you created. See the JS file. The moment you create a lightning component, few things has been automatically created for us. One is template. I have written this allowed, and then JS file will have this import lightning element from the LWC. And the LWC is something like a package, so which we have got it. Only the lightning element we are using it. Under the lightning element is in a class or interface, so we are extending the this class, and then we're writing the child class something called as test LWC. This is something that which we have written or we have created the component name. So always from the package we are trying to use element, and from there we are inheriting the from this class too. We are writing some LWC test LWC as our own component. So by looking at this statement, you'll get to know, okay, any Java or Spring or Ribbon or something like this working. So they will have all the same type of structures. So if you see Lightning element, so Lightning element is something related to class and stuff. API is something related to something I want to track a value like world. So though allow is there and a world is there, but still world has been got it from the what is it JS file. So you will have HTML here, allow, and then you give it its name here. So the name is always whatever you give in the UI, sorry, in the background. So that has been rendering here. It just look you are having a placeholder there. So this is also called as binding. Either you can pass a value here directly, or you can getting from the JS file to display some value. So API generally we say that okay, you are just basically storing some value there. So we'll see what is this few decorators. Like these are called decorators at the rate API, at the rate track, at the rate wire. So we have a couple of decorators. We'll come to that point. So just we have to understand the top level. Okay, how they are having simple hello world to be displayed here. See API greeting. So the greeting you put here to this. So then you'll have such messages to be displayed just like greeting here. But the simple confusions you'll have in the aura, we have something like this. So you have v dot whatever the name, something like this. But here the transformations would be this way. Just name. We don't specify that the excellent remark. We don't specify v. We just simply say, hey, what the name you displayed, put them this way. So this is something that similar to an Angular, how they are displaying a value. So this is how they do it. It's typically like a binding they call it as. Whatever the variable value if we put already, so I will store there. Or whatever if you put in the UI here, it will go to the controller. Is any questions?
No, good.
So Kumar getting? Okay. Okay. So this is something that the dynamic variable which store name, and we keep using them. So which all the browser they supported this thing here? Edge, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. I think these are famous website browsers. So for HTML templates when you talk, so always a template is a valid HTML where you have this as a root tag. Unless in VF page. Okay. Few important points let's convert here. Aura to LWC. This way also let's put VF. So I think in VF page also is more or less something like this. To display variable, we have to use the same type of structure. Excellent remark. And what are the variable name that you were discussed? Something like ABC. Here also we can use reference v dot something, but we are not specifically saying that's a variable dot. For all the variables, we use v dot only there in the Aura. But VF page is not like that. Any type of text that you want to have, but display that this is the way we display. If an object is there, then only we display object dot something that, or like something like account dot field name is something like name you think. But this is always for variable declarations. We always have v dot something. So this is VF and this is Aura and this is LWC. So look at the difference. To display same name of an account, we can have these variants. So what is the next? So next would be HTML template. So root tag, if I talk, here it is. The root tag would be always apex colon page. But whereas here in the Aura, so it will be Aura colon component. In the LWC, it will be simply template. That's it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just giving a difference here how each programming is having their own key elements to display stuff. So by understanding this way, we'll have a similarities and comparisons. So this is a root element. Of course, the Lightning web components are most on dealing into the DOM elements. So DOM is something that, so what is called as DOM? So document object model, where if you see this is a web page, so we know this is a URL. So actually it starts from this whole thing is bundle called as the document window or a page. From the page, we just get into the URL as a taskbar or a title bar. No, this is the taskbar. So where you get a title where you say that in the URL what it goes, and then you get into a document. In the document, what you have on the left hand side, and what you have on the right hand side. Then again, drawing it down to the specific text. It's just like inspecting an element. If I just inspect this data binding where it is, so it will show me in the DOM elements type. See, it just went to the element section, but itself says so where you are actually pointing to. So let's go to the source. This is just a CSS file we have. You see this? The whole body is this what you see. Look at this. I'm just moving to the inspect data element. So data binding. ID is equal to data binding. So if you wanted to get document.getElements.id is equals to data binding if I give. So it's a DOM element type of inspecting it. So in the overall page, then ID wherever it is having data binding, go to that particular area and do something where ID is equal to this. So that is something which we refer as DOM element. So director is a special to HTML type, and then if it's true, that gives more power to manipulate the DM in DOM and markup. So Lightning Web Components manipulate the DOM instead of writing JavaScript to do it. So if you say ID is equal to data binding, so it'll directly go do some change there. You need not to have saying that document dot get elements by ID. All this we are not doing it here. So traditional JavaScript was doing, you not to go get the item of the particular element. We use that document dot get element. Yes, of course, in VF page, if you want to have implementation of DOM elements, we need to use something like document dot get elements by ID. This is very common and should be used here in the VF and Aura pages. Of course, if I just copy the whole and then separate to document dot get elements by ID in Aura. So instead of this, these guys have component dot find and then give the Aura ID and get value. Look at this. component.getElement, component.find. So very similar things. So they have is, of course, this they have it. So in the last class also, I think, I don't know why it is not opening here. Just can you check this McDonald's org is opening in your orgs? I mean, your new browser type.
Can you ping that?
Yeah.
The chat.
Just go to test.salesforce.com. Sorry, login.salesforce.com. And then the credential is training admin at, what is it? Admin at mcd.com.
1 second. Salesforce. Okay.
Look at this, admin at mcd.com.
Yeah. Training at 1
At
to
1 to
3.
3. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I went there.
So is it opening for you?
Yeah, the page is open. I need to go to some other URL or you're asking?
No, it's not opening for my in my PC. Then to demonstrate will be crazy.
Oh, I went to, yeah, it's open dev lightning.force.com, lightning. So do you need to go somewhere else from there or?
No problem, no problem. So just I was asking you whether it is working or not.
Yeah, I'm able to log in.
Okay, we'll see a different approach. So look at this document.elements get by ID, and then we would pass here. Let's see, what is that? Data binding, something we saw there. This is how you try to get it in the VF page because they use absolutely pure JavaScript. But whereas in Aura, I think we have to use component.find, and then we say data binding. This is how we try to go find the particular component. I thought of showing this in your Aura component. If at all some ID we have given in order to go to a particular element, so we do this component.find, go to data binding area, and then dot get element. So now in that particular component, whatever the text box something you entered, I can get the value there. For example, in search box you're giving some value, and in order to get a value from there, I need to find something like this. This would be very important interview question, guys. Like why? How do you get an element from the in Aura? How do you go find your element in DOM elements? They will ask you. Using find keyword, you need to find the data elements. So I'm just giving an example here. In this somewhere in the web page, data binding. How do you find this particular element in your web page or something like DOM elements in Aura component? So what I do is you say, I know this whole thing is a component if you think, and I want to find the exact ID is equal to data binding, right? So if at the moment you do inspect element, you know that there is an ID is equal to data binding, you're getting it. But how do you understand via through programmatic way that the element is holding this ID is equal to this? How do you find it? So the whole component, whatever we have, component dot find element, and then you give this ID. Element means the ID always will be unique, right? ID is equal to data binding if you give, so it will go find it. So component dot find of this element and dot get element. If I say whatever is holding a value inside this, we will try to get it. If it is a text box, something I entered here in text box, I'll get the values inside that. So that's how we try to manipulate the DOM elements in our component. But whereas in LWC, so they're saying that hey boss, you not to do anything with that. So automatically the DOM element will be manipulated by LWC. So you need not to worry about hey go get that ID, go get this. You need not to do the stuff. So it'll be more easy and simple components are seeing here. And moreover, whatever we call as data binding as a concept we say, we are trying to keep a value here and then we're trying to display here. So name you given, right? So the name, whatever you have given, you're trying to display in the value here. So this is basically called as data binding. What store you display here. Everywhere we have data binding. In normal VF page also we have data binding, or also we have data binding, and here also we do data binding. So what is the data binding? If you see, this is the data binding. account.name. Whatever we have the value in the name, we're trying to display. That is data binding. So this is an example of data binding. How do we display the data if you're having some variable? See how to display? Just simply name here v.name here. So whatever the object dot particular name, or if you have a variable declared directly the name like this. We don't use v dot here in VF page. In LWC we don't use anything, just like this. So that's the transformations we have in data binding. And this is the root tags. So this is called as root tags. And this is how we say how to find DOM elements. So using in Visualforce also, using a JavaScript only you can do this way, or else we don't have any options to find it like this. Using a JavaScript, you have to go find the document.get element by ID and then do the stuff. Or else another way, if you look, it will be again crazy. Even they also follow somewhat similar structure of a document get element. So they also have a component dot go get find the element and then get it. So they also have some other way, but generally using a JavaScript, this is how we do it. Okay, so they somehow they are similar in order to find the document names, but LWC is that they themselves try to manipulate the stuff. That is what they're saying here. Okay, data binding, handle user input. Look at this. Very interesting stuff is you are written a name is equal to world. Okay, so anyway the name is been printed there. This dot name, so that means even dot target dot value. Even in or also we have, but if you go deeper there, you will get to know. Here also look at this handle input is a simple name which I have given. So look at this, I can have ABC also here. No need problem here. I can have ABC. What is this ABC is indicates? So this is something a function that you're writing it here. And the same functions you need to call here. Getting? So this is a JS file. ABC is the function name, and inside that you're trying to pass one argument variable called as even. And in this even, what you have even dot target dot value. So whatever you have stored here world, so that we're trying to display in the name. So today you have a simple world called world, and I can say, look at this. So whatever you're typing, instantly we're getting there, right? So this is something called as dynamic binding. So this type of things are already there in Angular JS also, or any other JS frameworks, which is advanced things. They have it. So they all have these features. So that's the reason. I mean, JavaScript libraries people have, right? So they all form. Okay, let's have the same design across. But this is the way we're dealing with even dot target dot value. So what is that even dot target dot value? Whatever you type, it tends to have in this event. Okay, in even what we have, the target is basically the text box or whatever the things you have, that is target. And inside that, what value you're giving, that matters. So that whole bundle value, whatever you give into this dot name. So this dot name means what? You have a reference name already here, so it goes here. So now whole value we are trying to give dynamically and put it here. And this world already we have mentioning in hello and then name. So when I say binding here, it means dynamically you're typing whatever you're typing. Also the value keep changes there. So the given input type text value whatever you give on input they're saying ABC. You're calling a method actually. You're calling ABC is a method here, and that ABC is method is that is something that the custom event action that you do it on click, something that we have no the event handling function. On click call this method, on input call this method. Okay, on input call this method we're saying. So that ABC is this method. So even this general way, anything you have, we all talk about event here because you're typing something and you're taking out something. On click is an event, right? So this is an on input. On input ABC is a function, and there we call a method called as ABC. Yes, getting?
So, so that input field is binded to this ABC.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you don't have this, If you don't have this,
Hmm.
so you're not calling any method there. So I'm not storing any value to this name. Getting?
Okay. What is this value equal to name?
See, input text type text box anyway you have to give a value, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Input text we have
Oh,
in simple hour also we give a text. Okay, what indicates a type? Type is data type. Text it is. Always I would
okay.
enter text here. If it is number, I would enter one number there. So like that type
Okay.
is text. Now
Okay.
what value are you entering here? So that indicates this value. Getting? So why I want to put
Oh,
the name
okay.
here is this whatever the value which I want to dynamically render. It should go here. There's a name field. By default, if I refresh the page, it is in by staying as world.
Yeah.
Okay, now if I want to keep some change of text here, it should also display in the above. So then I should do some event because I'm typing something and the above also I need to change the value. So you're saying I'm typing, go instantly refresh the value of the name and display there. So that is the reason we want to have events on input of this particular event, whatever is changing. So this event is having some value and that I'm assigning directly to the name. So this name is already just displayed above, just displayed above. You are just inputting
Okay.
text here, that is displaying above. So whatever I'm having, I'm omitting it. So if I have the value as world, I was omitting that. Now you're changing something, I'm omitting the latest one. So that is what the name is holding here. So why? Because the name has already been declared here and then using it. Getting?
Yeah, got it.
So in order to call our custom method events, so I have written ABC here. So in the output JS, okay, result. Now let's say on click.
Call ABC.
I just moved on to the events, custom events. I'm writing it on. Same thing written on input is equal to ABC. ABC. Still you type something, they're displayed. So what it indicates. So everything is a different meaning. On input, I'm saying is something that on input I wanted to give the value. Now on
So
click
now
one,
if you,
no,
yeah, if you
yeah,
click now it will, yeah.
yeah. I just type, let me do it this way. I type number this and then I'm clicking it.
If you click in that box, it will, yeah.
Ah, look at this. Now it is on click even. Now only when I click the value is getting changed. Now on the input is not changing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that means your event has been changed. On click of this only then the value is getting changed. So these are the event functions we can say on click, on input, on mouser, on keyboard events. All these mouser or keyboard events we can have it here. But the method that which you're trying to call here is the simple one which you written here, ABC. And if you have input as param as even, so this is nowhere we are having what do you say a variable. So this is a generic term we have. Even means what? We assume that okay you're clicking it that is an even and you're calling this method. I would take it as input as an even. Whatever this text box you are entering here or whatever you're dealing with this text box, I consider wholly as an even. So then it comes here and then even the target value, whatever the text box we have entered here, it will capture here and it stores in this value. and all this manipulated here. Now, based on your even what you have been given here, I would act like that based on it. If it's non input, instantly I would give the value. Now, when you're saying that this particular value is updating to the name field, only on a click it is updating it. On a click value, it is updating this even value to this particular name, because even fired only when on the click, then only your value getting updated, isn't it? If it is a non-input, instantly the values keep getting updated to that particular name field. See why? Because we know that this event is specifically whatever the input you capture, I'll quickly call this particular event method, and then it tries to update to this value. When this value is updated, of course I can show this value. So this is a simple thing that we are trying to handle the user input. Okay, so the next is user use getters and to compute the value. So we know that, right? The getter property, where even in the LWC, sorry, in the Aura, we had a getter property. Even in the VF page, we had a getter property. Getters as setters, we are using it, right? Getter setters, where we try to assign a value, we try to either read or write.
Yeah.
So some value have been put there. Component dot set element. Component dot set this value. Component dot get element of that particular value. We're doing that, right? In our also we did it. So component dot whatever the variable value. Uh, let's say last time we did a restaurant number, you're entering it. So what I was doing is component dot get in the braces v dot restaurant number. So whatever value have been entered in the text box of restaurant number, I'm getting the value there. So that is how we are getting it. And now again, when you wanted to call to a class, so what it is component dot something you wanted to override the value. So for result, component dot set something result is equal to whatever the value which you got from the return results. So you are only trying to read the value latest value what we have, and post the results what you want to have is in order to override the value there, you are doing it component dot set. Set means basically writing it. Get means basically reading it. The same paradigm here also it follows. We want to dynamically compute some value. How to do is you have to have this get property. Look at the simple example you have. So get uppercase full name. So this indicating this way is, so first name is web and the last name is component. So always they use this is why, because it indicates that this particular variable you only want to focus. The reference key is on to this first name field or variable, whatever you call this dot last name. So this why, because why they are using this is they are typically having this universal concept of writing the similar program across. If you see Java, so they will always reference this. Even in the Angular JS journal, they were using this. Why they want to have this is because it is pointing to the right variable names. And so that is the ELS models people when they talk. So they will all the same thing. So why it is ELS model if you say? So they are all aligned to this committee where in terms of JavaScripts we have all of the some programming they all have, should not have all the different structures they should have. So this particular ELS inland they are all following it. Okay, then all we are in one category where I learn JavaScript and you learn JavaScript. You are a different framework, a different framework, but still we can easily switch our career from Angular to Salesforce or from LWC to Angular. It should be so easy enough. Anyone can code LWC program. So that is the ultimate goal of this all these guys. So if you go back to the simple thing I want to show on the ELS, they also have lab package.json, simple models. If you see this any ALS components which we see in Aura or not Aura or any Angular or any of the latest guys people are developing the ELS models, they will all follow the same paradigms. Okay, so let's say get property name is the one which you have. Get means what you are trying to get the value. Oh, no, this is not loading where it is. So we are trying to get some results, right? Using on the day, what is that? For a VF page, you wanted to display a list of records. So we used a get property there. So get account ID means it'll try to display me all the records there. If this doesn't open, then I'll go to incognito mode and let me try there. So we also have to see some Docker elements, how the Docker elements would work. Let's say Docker service, Docker elements. Okay, couple of things we have. So if this is simple developer comes the last time, if you see some pages. So this is an example of which I'm saying. So this is always point to this elements and v dot variable. You're trying to hold the values of the current data binding value. So this is all the example of those things. And some for a VF page onto this custom controller, how we're getting the get accounts. Let's look at this get accounts. So the moment you click on get accounts, you're trying to hit the value and get it right. So this is all we're trying to retrieve the values from the Salesforce. Look at this. So this is a method which we have public void get accounts. So this is a getter method means it is trying to display all the list of records. A method which we're trying to do get set value. So something like get accounts means I can write there get accounts in the VF page and then trying to display the list of records. So basically what happens is on the method of the get accounts you click, so you're getting a list of accounts to display there. So a table you had, you're trying to display all the stuff. So the same way, here also get property name they have. So let me record it. Yeah. So this is something that the method we have get uppercase full name. So now whatever the first name, last name they're having it. So they're trying to concatenate and then have into a full name, and then they are trying to do is full name dot trim dot to uppercase. That's a simple method in string we have. So this is a string method we have. Nothing much different. This is a string method which indicates, hey, changes all this whatever the value to an uppercase. So that's all we have. In the JS, we do nothing. Whatever the variable that is there, something ABC which we written as a bind variable, so we displaying that. See, return get means directly they're not getting the first name, last name. This time they're directly using this particular variable name. So moment I use this, so what insert we have is all internally they have compiled with whatever they wanted to convert to a uppercase. So just they are trying to use this value. Look at this. So that means what? Whatever the value is being stored here, we're trying to use it. Even here in the what is that? Even in the controllers, we used to have get set, right? So the string, if I have a get value, I need to write some logic here. I already said something. When you wanted to have a get logic, so you write something ABC here. That way, what we had in restaurant, we used to get it. Or on the page load only, you wanted to set something, you write some logic here. Because I said that these getters and setters are used to hold some value. If you want to manipulate the value, so you need to write logic here, get or set something, you have to do it. Then using the this restaurant number in the UI page, using the restaurant number in the UI page, like input text, they're using it, right? So this is basically like a bind variable only. Look at this. This I'm showing in the VF page. Somewhat the same. So you enter the number, value, whatever it is, I just go get the get accounts. Now in the get accounts, you have all the values to display the latest record, whatever you have. But in our case, since it is having two-way binding, so guys, this is all having one-way binding. It doesn't have two-way binding. VF page doesn't have two-way binding. Two-way binding means what? So the moment I enter the value, it takes the value, goes to the controller, and then do manipulation and get the results on display. But look at this in the so just before which we had. So just before this is all called as two-way binding. Input you give it, right? Whatever you give input, it is you are entering here and the value is also displaying there. So this is what we call as two-way binding. So what I type here, you are storing a value to the name and the same value are displaying here. This is called two-way binding. Whereas the VF page and all the stuff, you have displayed something here, I am displaying it here. And the same what you are trying to manipulate dynamically, it cannot display like that there. So that doesn't have a strength of doing that. To that, we have to have some JS frameworks to do such things. So these are all two-way binding which existed is from the jQuery and then later on to the Angular. I think I would have stopped here by saying so getters and setters properties. In the getters properties, I think you're trying to get the property value. So this is again one-way type of binding where we are trying to have our own what is a static text which is given as web and last name. So this value we have a get property. So get means what always we're trying to retrieve it. Get and set. Get is for read and set is for write. Calling this a method directly, it tried to manipulate the value here and it will return me the moment when I call. You didn't define anything called a string. You didn't do anything here, right? You didn't write string here. We don't give any data type here. It automatically given the value here. Look at this. So that way, you're just calling this method. So I would know that this is a constant which I want to have the full name. Concatenate this both the value, and then I'm just trimming the value and returning it. So that's how I'm just having simple expression to display the value. I would say this is one-way binding. How you had a value here, you're getting it here. If this value is entered dynamically, so based on the value dynamically, I would keep changing the value to display here. So then it means says that okay, two-way binding. Who is a good example of two-way binding? Input text here. The moment whatever I type here, you're trying to change instantly there. The event is fired. It just updating the value dynamically. Then the value, it has overridden the value of the name what we have with the event value and showing the value of the latest whatever I have it. So this is two-way binding. Is of course two-way binding would use in majority or maybe in multiple places. When we get into use case, we'll see them. Okay, now render list we have something. It's like a for loop you have where you try to generally like you have a list of accounts you've queried. I said from the what is it right hand side only you have to get into the left hand side. Right hand side will always have collections, and you have to get each record one by one to the left hand side. That is also called as for each loop. And here also the same way we have a for each loop, and then we have a decorative the directive which we the name called as iterator. So we use iterator as a keyword here. Okay. Anyway, iterator the same keywords you can find in even in what is it for VF page also we use or also we use, but the name is different. But of course, aura colon iterator we use it. I don't know. I think aura colon. Aura colon iterator. I don't know. Aura colon repeat I have heard. Aura colon iteration also we have. Um, Apex colon. So aura colon iterator is something that for doing a list of records, iteration list. Render list. For this in VF page we have in VF page multiple we have apex colon data table we have apex colon repeat we have apex colon page block table we have three things we have in VF page, but in our we have apex colon or iterator we have. Even in the LWC they follow the same structure, so they're having iterators. Look at that. We'll get back to that. So lightning. So we have a render list. So that is what we are the place we are showing this render list. For each loop we have array we have again. How do we display this stuff? So that is what we're doing it. But you guys know that from the left hand side we'll have a bunch of value and we're getting each record to the left. So from right hand side we're getting to the left hand side. So the bunch of record is progressing to each one by one. So we call this for each loops. So here, like for example, contacts, when you have this square braces that indicates it's a list of records. So there's a known thing for us because it is following a JSON structure. So in a JSON, we have open braces of the square braces. It indicates okay list of records here, and each record has been indicated with a comma by flower braces. Okay. So there, let's say this is the contact is a list. Now, how do we have displayed them into an HTML format? Look at this template for each list of records. Each item is contact here and be displayed. So this is something directly writing like a for each loop of a list and then getting each item for that particular record. You're getting this. So then we say key. Key means what? What I wanted to be of the first element. Contact.id, contact.last name, contact.title. This all indicates the keys which you're trying to get from here. List of records. Each record we are progressing here. Item dot. If you want to get the contact.id, so then what to do is whatever the name we display here item, that name.id. So this is very generic. Even in the VF page we have, right? So this is all the same paradigm they go across with.
So why there are two for statements there?
Where for each indicates here the list of records is the variable name you give it here. Now it is a where it is. If you see other programming, we use where. Correct, right? Where this element dot id. So this element dot name, this element dot title. Getting it?
Okay.
So what you say is this is the contact list we have. Each item means each record it indicates.
Okay.
So if you see our generic Visual Force page, if you have, look at this page block table. This is the list we have. Where indicates each record. It's like for loop, In the
Okay.
for loop, we have, let's say here, account list we have, and account list is of type account, right? So what I do is account, I write it here, and then I say ACC. Look at this. This is something the same. Account list object is record is here. Each record I have to process with ACC, and next inside the for loop, I want to display something. ACC dot name I display like this. Correct?
Right.
This is how a for loop would indicates, right? So when I'm progressing with the for loop, what happens? I'll just comment this. It would be surely useful to you guys. So this is absolutely the same way. So this is exactly like this only. For account ACC colon this. I said the right hand side always you have a bunch of record. Each record you process is nothing but a var here. So that variable of type account object, and then ACC dot name you try to print. That means the first record would got printed. Then the account list has a bunch of records. So each record will try to keep displaying the name. Same way in the page block table or any other iteration piece we have, they try to display the first record and second record and so on. We just preview this based on some account number only, restaurant number only are displaying this, right? I know MCDIND. Yesterday I saw something like McDonald's India. If the value is there, they're gonna get the results on display. So in this array of record, they had only one record, whereas in now McDonald's Kukatpalli, so we had a bunch of accounts. So then it depends on that, right?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So now same similarity here, but this guy is displaying the way it is quite different. How? So at the template only they're trying to give it. Everything they do on manipulate on template only. Okay. For each is equal to your list value you are putting it here. Each item like a var you are putting it here variable name, and that variable name dot id name everything you just you keep processing on, and then you get the results here. So they are putting as li. This is an order list. So sorry, list of items which you have. So we put in li. So that's reason displayed in the li type. Now if you want to have the lightning design systems, uh, okay, SLDS table in LWC. So now if we have a very good UI to do that stuff, so we can get that. See, this is a value we have for to display a template in the perfect value. So I want to display opportunity name, account, and then the stuff. So they have this type of things to display there. I mean, you are getting the a proper a table structure that which you want to display there. Single column table. So we can use this also. So go to that template here. This is the playground, so we can directly show your input. That's the reason I'm just playing here. Or else each time you have to go here, write a code, and then right click and deploy, and then go to org and see the UI there. So before getting to that, this is the phase one, a beginner level where we try to try a snippet and do the testing here. So thereafter, we don't need to go check for a simple binary variable or to do a list of records to display. So we need not to uh, go do all this stuff circus here. A simple thing you can test it out here. Like how you have in developer console, you have something called as anonymous window. Something like this only we are testing it out here. So now this UI template we have. Okay, this template only I wanted to manipulate two things because here it is displaying the results instantly here. Hmm. So opportunity name. So they are displaying this way. Oh my God, what is this? Okay, stop it. So this is a table name and then this is the value we have. So you want to have nicer LWC title here. I think we need to have style should be included. Mm, we have to install this. So let's see this. They're saying that at the rate synthetic shadow. If it oh, oh my God. So this is outside the org, right? So that's the reason um, or else it will easily print it out without any stuff. So we don't write always the SLDS colon that those things we don't write. Since all the components are residing inside the Salesforce, so we are trying to preview somewhere. It all tries to get the no alignment and display it. But this is just like outside the playground we are trying to play, just simply with the JS and HTML script. So might not have that style sheet references here. So anyway, this is the table name and then the value of this alignment is displaying it properly. So let's try to display the same. Hmm, table header is something that opportunity name let me keep it as there. So it's not opportunity name, it's a contact name. So we put as contact name. Anyway, this is your trend code. Where's the value which you're trying to display here? So this tr to be repetitive. Why tr to be repetitive is that's a table row. We have to display the dynamic data there. So in this place we need to have a contacts and get them the right thing there. So above the tr, so we put the value. So just inside the li, even li won't print it out. So directly if I wanted to get the contact name and try to display here. Because the template started here and the template been ended here. So template should go across till the tr. contact dot name. So tr is perfect. Template is also perfect for each contact. Oh, so they're having ID and the name and the title out of these three. So we are trying to display the name. This is also correct only. I'll take this copy here. Let's get back to the old what they are having it. To the same UI. So let's keep modifying things. So if you don't have the key as an ID, will you not display? Perfect. They're displaying the value. For each item, the records are displaying here. So now slowly we'll put our value there. Table CSS table. So table head till we put here. Table header I'm putting there. And table head start, table head put slash table. Sorry, they should be outside. So this is contact name Amy Taylor. Okay. So now we want to have our own UI table. Come back here. So in the body, above the template, I'm going to put the body. And then after the body, it should end. So we're good there also. So this has to come inside the row. Not here. Inside here. It should come inside TR. Correct. And this has to go to each row that after they have to print it out. Where TR, each TD, they have to mention it. Yeah, this browser. So the problem with this is this is not moving properly. Oh, till now it works fine. So I write something and I should say that ACT or whatever it is because it's a for loop. Temple has to display for each and every element. So where the problem starts, I want to see them. So when I write a TR, and then I put a name under that, then I write something like this. So now thereafter it's not obeying me unless and until it was doing that stuff properly. Okay, so we'll get that. What is it? Though we have a table and structure is ready at the top, but the template value which you are trying to do here, it should follow some paradigm, I think, because for the table data, table retrieve data, they are not aligning structures. If I take this out, yes, of course, it treats them. Okay, there's a text which is DSD, something it's getting the loop. See? Okay, we'll see these problems when you write a program and then check it out. So otherwise, if you see our iterator, so till now what we're doing is here, we're using a simple for each time and we are using a train. So there's a keyword here as a iterator colon name array, you use it. So this is a special behavior from one element to the last element till we can find it out. I think more or less with these also for loop as the same. But here specifically people would use iterator and contacts. And you're just getting as the same value that we're trying to progress here. Look at this design and stuff. Is getting to access the value of the property in the array, iterator name dot value dot property name. Iterator dot value dot and the property name. So iterator is TIT and then something like contact like value. Look at this IT dot value dot name, IT dot value dot title. So that is what they're saying here. Iterator name dot value dot property name. Always use a value keyword here in the between. That is what they're saying it. Before and all we are here and all we're trying to use it as a different way. So whatever the for each loop, the whole bunches came here as an item, and that item dot value if I do, it is done. But in the iterator keyword specifically, so just they're having it as something like iterator colon it is equal to you're doing it right. So now this dot value dot and then the field name whatever you want to do this way we have to do it. So that is what they're mentioning here. Is getting
Yeah.
yeah. Every element in this list must be have a key. So when the list changes, the framework uses the key to identify each element changes. So now in this point, why we want to have a key? So earlier before this, what we're trying to implement. So we had a key in this. Why this key is indicates is like for example, each element you're trying to access here, right? So this is indicates an ID. Tomorrow, if you want the IP reference to be given and click here, it will take the respective record. So that's the reason they have a key element here. With the help of a content ID, they are trying to move on next records. ID are not displaying anyway, we know that's but this particular row key which it is, ID is the key. And the same row I can modify it to an hyperreference based on I want to click here the record and it should get to the next level. So that's the reason they're saying. Any important note on to this for each item is this. So every item must have a key. That list, whichever it is using as a key, we can identify them to get to the right place or where you want to re-render or take to the respective record page, all that we can deal. Basically it tracks like an index 0, 1, 2 like that. So ID is indicates like unique record, right? Salesforce ID. So to find something like an index or to navigate to the right page, so they are using it as an ID here. So they're asking you to use key elements here. The key could be always an ID. So that way we have to point out here. So otherwise iterator, if you see, iterator is the same way, but we have iterator value, sorry, iterator name dot value dot and the respective name of the particular field that you have to access. So render HTML conditionally. So template, if this is the value is true, then display this. Else, display this. If else statement type. Of course, we have a sections, right? Show the sections if this section is false and show to the next section. So this type of a UI also we can have. For example, you are in a window one and then you have to go to window two. In window one, if you fill, only then I'll show you window two, or else I'll never show the window two to you. So window one should be fill the values. Only then I'll go to the next step, or else I don't go. So for that, there's a good example is this. So toggling between the true or false. So that is something rendering based on the conditionally. See, is template one is false if I say, so I'm showing true to you. If I say true to this is template one. If I say false, so you're displaying second template. Okay? Two templates we have. If this is true, I'll show this one, template one. If this is false, I'll show this. Just like if else statement. So they are trying to display here. So render multiple templates, that means you have a simple write a method like this. So calling them, so they will show which one to be displayed here. Switch templates, template two, because you are making them to true or false here. Look at this. On a click, you are trying to show this even which one to be false or true. Show template one, you made as true. That's the reason this template one has been shown. On a click on a switch bot template, you are trying to call, hey, call to this one, and that one has a different value. Look at this. Is getting? So on click on a button, you're trying to make true or false. So that's absolutely simple as directly hard coding a value here. True or false. On a button click, you're calling this. Even here also by clicking here is what do you say? On a button on click on this button. See, this is an on click even. You're trying to call this method. See, every time what in JavaScript you do is on click, you try to call your a method name. So method name is something that we try to write here. And this method doesn't have void that is written, they don't do anything here. See, return method also same and normal void method is also same. So we don't have anything like static, all those contents we don't have. It's a flat a method name, we try to use them. See?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see how the file structures are stored, HTML, JSS, and CSS. For the CSS, why they want to have is they would have written a P. See, for this color they are using it, right? Some color they are using it Salomon. So if you use red, so this would be red. Oh, this is red for them. Display something purple there. Okay. I think whatever the hard code is, that is only it is displaying. So our dynamic color is not displaying there. Anyway, no problem. So you have your own CSS files there, you can display with them. Oh, they have multiple fields they have. Look at this, my color has been got now. Then So template one, they have different color. Multi HTML, they have different color. Okay, that's the reason. He's getting.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, each and HTML versions, all they can have different, and they're trying to simply connect here. Template one HTML, template two HTML, and their respective CS, and all they're trying to concatenate to a multiple templates.html. So of course, like 2, 3 files also you can merge in one, and then you can display conditionally. So that is what they're showing it here on button click. It's rare to define render. It is a component in it's more common to use if else true. Render nested templates conditionally. So they have nested templates conditionally. Okay, fine. Okay, so this is about the HTML templates and how do you handle them. If you want to go just see CSS how they react. So how to use the CSS property here. So just how you effectively use CSS blocks. Those are the good examples we have. I recommend you just go to this guide and just check it out how it works. Instead of explaining the how the um, life cycle of these or I know LWC works, I'll explain that tomorrow. But otherwise, we are having the basic knowledge of how we have LWC, how we are using it. So we should go by line what this indicates. We have something called connector to callback, like constructor, render callback. So a few things we have to discuss, and then we'll jump onto the actual programming stuff because the key things that we have to understand here. Writing a program, of course, you can get a bunch of code, but understanding what is actually why we have to get it here, comparing with some other the other guys like what is that VF or another stuff. So it will benefit us. So I have a simple image. I'll send you our and LWC few keywords they have mentioned. So what you can use in Aura and what the same thing you can see in LWC. I have a simple image. I'll forward in WhatsApp. Okay. So we'll see you
Okay.
guys. Otherwise, so just on the chat, I'm just displaying this URL. So go to this uh, lwc.dev guide CSS. Not only CSS, you can go to the LWC. What are the stuff they have? And I also recommend this developer guide is very important. In order to see components by each library, what they're trying to talk and what they, I mean, we have to get masters. We have to see this developer guide.